Okay, first I want to congratulate you for clicking on a coffee with Dave that's going to be 40 minutes long. All right. So that shows how brave you are. Anyway, we do have coffee. There is some ranting involved, but it's not angry. And some of it might be fairly interesting. I think most of it's coherent. There might be a few dots that I didn't connect. But one thing that went wrong is I waited till the very end to tell you some information I needed to make sure that most of you actually heard. And that's that my band is playing tomorrow night, the 10th of December, at a place called Kulak's Woodshed in North Hollywood. Now, it's a funky little listening room, but it's really good. They put out a really good live stream. There's pro sound and there's pro video, and it's all directed properly and it looks good, except for the crazy stuff on the walls and stuff, which is a little eccentric if you're not used to that sort of thing. But you'll like it. It's a good place. All right. So check it out. All the info's down below. Now let's start the truck, and I'll turn you over to the Coffee with Dave guy. Hey guys, long time no see. So here I am, still obviously in the Hobo Dojo, and still got my guitar, got my old red jacket. It's cold here. It's been getting cold here. It's been getting down around 40 every night. And I know that doesn't seem very cold to some of you, but for Southern California, it's a little cold here. So why am I bothering you today? Well, over the last couple of weeks, 3 different guys who know me from the channel have reached out and sent me really lovely notes, letting me know they're thinking about me and letting me know that they, hope that I'm well. And one of them is a guy named Bob. The other guys are named Joe and Eric, I believe. Yeah. And one of them, Bob, I ended up meeting him for coffee. He lives nearby, and he's actually come out to a few of our shows. And so went and met him, and I've been seeing him at shows, and we just really I'm so busy at those things. I didn't really have a chance to hunker down and have a talk with him. And so we finally did, and we talked for an hour and a half. I felt a little bad because it was cold. We went to this little coffee house down by a bookstore here in Pasadena that we both know about, and there was no room inside, and it was threatening rain and very, very cloudy and dark outside. But we went outside and sat on a bench anyway and talked for a long time. And he was in his gym clothes, so he's wearing shorts and a t-shirt. I was dressed warmly, but we talked for a long time, had a great conversation. Excuse me, my voice is a little bit ragged. I had the flu a while back, and it's had some after effects. Feeling good, feeling fine. But that conversation with Bob and the notes I got from Joe and Eric just made me feel like, I think I'm ready to reconnect. And I'm not going to go into all the reasons that I haven't been creating content, so to speak. I mean, I never really wanted to, thought of myself as, I think I would like to be a content creator on YouTube. I never had that plan. I was writing stuff and posting it on Facebook. And excuse me, I just got to clear my throat. Oh, we don't want to do that on mic. I had been writing things on Facebook, and Jason Seiler picked up on that. He saw the stuff I was writing, and he came up with the idea that maybe we should try making some videos. And we just did a channel on Facebook, and it was fun. We were just having fun. We didn't make any money. There was no way to monetize on Facebook that we knew of. And so, we did that for, a year or so. And then we got thrown off of Facebook sort of, I'll tell that story some other time. I think maybe I have told that story, but anyway, we got in a dispute there, and they cut all of our views down. We had 80,000 followers, and they, made a little adjustment so that none of them saw when our videos came up. So we said, hell with this. We're going to YouTube. And we did. And the rest is some sort of minor, tiny bit of history. Um, but it was quite an experience, but I never thought, "Oh, man, how great it would be to be a YouTube content creator." There's people that think of themselves in that way, and "We gotta create more content. We have to have collaborations with other YouTube guys and try to grow our channel and try to make an impact and monetize in every way we can," and all of that stuff. That never occurred. It never was anything I was interested in. I think Jason kind of liked the idea maybe that he might be able to, parlay that into something else. I'm not sure. Um, but if somebody had said to me, "Hey, would you like to have a program on, talk radio or something like that?" I would have said no. I would have said no. I wasn't into it that much. I was into the ideas. I was angry and, I was pissed off at the left for their unjust assessments of the people that I knew to be good and modest people, like my own parents, who were conservatives. And as a sort of default Democrat here in Los Angeles, I really never I kinda came up, moved to a hippie commune right out of high school, and I was just surrounded by that kind of thinking. But, um, but the main conservatives in my life, of course, were my parents. And as I got older, I was more and more appreciative of their sacrifices and of their values and also of their civic duty. And so I, as I painted houses around Los Angeles, I just met more and more really nice, good, solid, kind-hearted, open-minded conservative people, and I knew they were getting, just slagged off unfairly. They were, in the left-dominated media, and so I wanted to do something about that, Jason and I both did, and so we did. We felt like we were fighting the forces of woke and, also playing defense. I mentioned that a number of times, that what I was doing was excuse me, bump the table. Um, I mentioned a number of times I saw myself as a defensive player. I was trying to defend good people. I was not out to, eliminate the other side. I wasn't playing some sort of zero-sum game. I was trying to do, I was having a battle of ideas that I was trying to keep civil and intelligent and consistent and well thought through. And I think that I did that for the most part in my videos. There were some that I threw together a little bit because, it sounded like a great idea and I had a video due, you know. But I never wanted to be part of this knockdown, drag out, never ending fight, tit for tat, day by day, see what the other side's doing and then do the opposite, latch on to some value or some idea. And once we grab it, everybody on our team has to grab it. And their team then goes in the other direction entirely. And there's something about the two-party system, and there's something about this either or thing that's built into humans that drives people to the extremes because you feel like, well, like when they pushed the abortion issue, it was a response when they pushed it from 3 months really to 6 months. That was their way of responding to the growing pro-life movement, who was trying to push it to nothing, to no abortion anytime. And so, they go to the extremes. They thought, well, we better get some more months on this thing. We better get some more ground because they're going to make some headway along the way, and we don't want them to knock us all back down to no abortion whatsoever. I'm just using that as a quick off the top of my head example. But all things are like that, if and I found myself like defending big business, and I don't think big business is the the moral the epitome of good moral character or anything like that. I mean, um, I'm a guy who likes to live cheap. I think people should live modestly. I don't think people should be chasing around having giant houses that they can't really afford and going into debt. But as a conservative, you sort of find yourself defending all things business, and on the other side, they find themselves kind of criticizing all things business, even though they are the benefactors of a lot of business. So it just pushes everybody into a place where the doctrines that they are then asked to adopt and be faithful to don't really represent what they think. And so I wanted to take some time off, get out of that, um, get reconnect with old friends, have discussions, talk to them, let them know where I'm coming from, have have civil discourse. Um, and that's what I've done. That's what I've done. And we've done put my band back together a year and a half ago, almost. And, we got a singer to sing with us, who we became very attached to. She's a wonderful human being. And I don't know how the people in my band recently we added a drummer, and this gig that's coming up this weekend, we added a bass player, and it'll be his first gig with us. I don't know how any of them vote. I don't care. I think they know how I vote because I'm a little bit well known, but they don't reject me for it. And so I think they understand who I am as a person. But it took a while. I got a little extreme there for a while. At least in the eyes of my friends, I was extreme because I was focusing on the fight. So I sometimes look back on my old Facebook posts. They pop up in memories. And I look at that and I go, I was picking a fight, I mean, I wasn't necessarily looking to communicate. I was looking to make points. So I got wrapped up in it, and it didn't do me any good. It didn't do anybody any good. And the thing that I remember, the most true comment that I ever got in the early days was, "That was really well said. Too bad nobody will ever hear it who needs to hear it and whose mind it might change." And that always played in the back of my mind, thinking, that's really the thing I'm failing to do. And so eventually I got up enough guts to start working my way toward the middle. And the craziness that overtook the right, I won't belabor that. I know a lot of you feel insulted when I do, so I won't belabor that. But it got to be, I got to the place where I was as turned off by the cartoon level conservatives as I was by the cartoon level liberals. Everything exaggerated, everything way over the top, everything about both sides were full of conspiracy theories. The conspiracy theories on the right, we know about, the stolen elections and the vaccines being evil or whatever. And on the left, it's been conspiracy theories all along. This whole idea that there's this conspiracy of oppression. The whole thing's based on a conspiracy theory. So I'm not criticizing just one side when I criticize conspiracy theorists. Anyway, I don't want anything to do with those people. And I think it's the responsibility of those of us who are of moderate mind to to fight back both sides. And so these are the conversations that I'm having with people who don't vote the same way as me. We're drawing each other toward a place in the middle where we're not that far apart. We all think that the homeless problem should be solved. We all think that manufacturing should be back in the United States as much as possible. Um, we all think that 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 people should be self-reliant to the highest degree possible and shouldn't be made more needy and shouldn't be enabled more. And I see sometimes I'm talking to one of my liberal friends and we'll talk about something on there and then I'll go, yeah, we clearly we pushed that one too far, you know? And so people want to be more moderate. And I'm not afraid to admit that I am a moderate. I don't know whether that there's anything that anybody ever did where extremism was a better call than being moderate. I mean, look at your own relationships. You know. So anyway, I don't want to talk about this anymore, but I just got to the place where I didn't want any part of partisan politics. So I now refer to my position as post-partisan. I come from a post-partisan perspective. I've been on both sides. I feel like I know their values well, and I also know their doctrines well, and I know where the doctrines start to separate from the values, start to cause them. Doctrine is a real problem. Now, I grew up religious, and my mother taught a class called, hang on a sec, I got to turn my alarm off. I grew up Catholic, and my mother, on the weekends, she taught a class for kids whose parents couldn't afford to send them to Catholic school for full-time indoctrination. So she taught this class called Confraternity of Christian Doctrine. And what that's all about is to, teach the doctrine to children. So you're putting these ideas in them that were cooked up many, thousands of years ago, certainly hundreds of years ago, by church people, whatever, and they're putting them into these kids as they're going to have to live by. And so, certainly I have problems with that. Aside from what you might think about the reality of God, whatever, to put something doctrinaire into a child and then threaten them with sort of hell or damnation or whatever if they don't adhere to it, it's a bad thing. And it's a bad thing politically when you tell people, okay, here's what we want, and here's our doctrine. You see, we're going to have a doctrine um, that almost everything that goes wrong in the life of a person of color is due to some sort of racism somewhere. You know what I mean? Or the doctrine that, oh, those people, those Democrats that want to expand Medicare to everyone, they're really looking to take us to a place of Stalinist communism. So we have to fight that as if it's an existential threat. These are doctrines. These are just sort of like pre-made marching orders to get everybody out there throwing shit at each other, and the people getting rich are the media. And it has righteously fucked up our politics, because now our politicians, someone said the other day that they said to me that the New York Times was an organ of the Democratic Party. And I said, you have it exactly backwards. If anything, the Democratic Party is an organ of the New York Times. And I'm not taking the New York Times by specific. They're making some effort, the New York Times, is to be more to be less biased. But the left biased media in general, just as the Republican Party has become, beholden to this giant media empire that is AM radio and all of, Fox News and everything and all its imitators, that are feeding people with the most scary version of those other people over there that we don't want to talk about, those democrats. They are driving the agenda of politics far more than politics is driving the agenda of the media, because the media is going on profits and clicks. The clicks that represent profits. So they are feeding people the juiced up stuff. We hardly hear from politicians except when they're trying to get into the media, because now there's politicians who are really only there because they want to be famous. And so the only way to get famous is you keep saying outrageous shit. I mean, come on, let's admit to the fact that for all of the things, the good things that Donald Trump did for this country, and he was going down a laundry list that he did not invent. He was going down a laundry list put together by pretty thoughtful conservatives over the years, and also things that he had learned in business and just by observing himself. But his style was pure Howard Stern, really. If you were to cross Mark Levin, now the New York Slimes, you go on the radio, a person that's a thoughtful communicator doesn't call people names. For Christ's sake, all you're doing is you are alienating and pissing off the other side. So now they gotta go back, they gotta juice their doctrine up, all agree to do it, and then come at you with all their guns. Such craziness. People say, "But Dave, you gotta fight fire with fire." No, you have to fight fire with by removing its oxygen. Now, if it were that we were the lily white pure, guys that just go to work every day and they never say a bad word about anybody, and there was not and oh, it's unfair on the other side completely. If it was that, then yes, maybe it'll be legitimate to be taking shots at the other side, and Jason and I felt like we needed to take shots at people sometimes. But now it's balanced out. It's balanced out. We got just as many, thoughtless, clueless a-holes on our side that don't give a rat's ass about this country. All they care about is making points. Oh, that's all they care about. Because if they really cared about the country, they'd be doing something to try to, bridge that gap with their neighbors. Get to the place where they're not fighting with their son-in-law, but they're starting to exchange ideas, because the truth of the matter is, if two heads are better than one, it's only because two types of heads are better than one. Now, there is a natural mind that's a conservative mind. It's the guy that lays back a little bit. Picture you're living out in the wild and in a small band of hunter-gatherers. You're going to want guys to say, okay, hey, we got plenty of resources here. There's risks over every hill. There's risks through every forest. Let's just stay here. And then there's the liberal mind, the person that always wants to explore the new frontier, try something new, try this new way to get food, attempt to make new alliances with certain other tribes. See if they can, get to a place where there's a different kind of world, less threat, or just, the liberal mind is just they like new ideas. And they also like the idea of themselves as heroic explorers and fixers of problems. That's sort of that, that natural liberal mind. And so you feed them enough stuff and you get them into your Democratic Party, and then you start manipulating them. And you start building voting blocks where now you're actually hurting the people that you say you're trying to help. And like in the case with Black Americans, you actually get to the place where you're doing everything you possibly can to enable their bad behaviors when there are bad behaviors. And if there's humans, there are bad behaviors. There are bad behaviors. And if you are afraid to say, hey, you know what? You got to think about some of your in-house problems in your community. You can't blame it all on the KKK. There's like 3,000 of them in the country. You can't blame it all on them, and none of them are in the cities where you live. So you get to that place where you're building voting blocks and you're trying to get alliances and build things and put things together so you can get, you can make sure that your job, either as a media person or as a political person, that your job is secure, that your place in society, the place where you're getting your status, is secure. And if it starts parting company with what's really good for the country, either on the left or right, fuck that. I'm going with what's good for me. You know what I mean? I don't want to be one of those guys. So anyway, got a little far afield there. So I hope I'm not being too boring. I haven't talked into a camera for a really long time. So anyway, recently, not too long ago, my mom died. Of course, Jason and I split up a while back, so that camaraderie came apart, and now he's moved out of state. And my brother, my sibling, the only sibling left that's in Southern California, because my mom died and left us some money. It was enough for him to get a down payment together on a house. And in Grants Pass, where everybody else is, you've seen me before making videos from Grants Pass. And so now he sent me something today. He sent me something in my phone today saying, hey, your little brother just bought a house, and so they're already up there. They're already up there, so, I'm all kinda on my own down here. So I need my family down here. I don't wanna be, so dug into politics that people are afraid to talk to me. You know what I mean? It doesn't do any good. If it was doing some good, and I did it for several years, I felt like I did a little bit of good. But, but I've had some losses. I'm older now, and I don't want to end up, sort of isolated and alone and things like that. And so it's good. I've been, reaching out. I'm now hosting a, a Monday open mic night at Kulak's Woodshed, and I'm kind of a bit of a mentor to some of the kids there because I know how to write a good song and perform it well. And they're all right at the beginning of their creative journey, and it's they're. I wish I could be young again and starting all over, as I'm sure many of you do. But that sort of brings me around to the idea that as an older guy, I know some things. And it's not because I'm smarter than anybody else. It's just because I've been around longer and I've made all the meaningful mistakes, not just once, not just twice, but 3 or 4 times to enough to know, yeah, that really doesn't work. And this other thing over here that I stumbled into by accident between mistakes does work. So I want to be of some service to just younger guys. And I've talked about this a little bit before. And so, but the secret thing about me is that if I don't have a community attached to a thing that I'm doing, I just stop doing it. I lose interest and I stop doing it. And I stopped having a community that was attached to YouTube. I mean, I had the central camaraderie with Jason, of course, and then that broke apart. And then, he was, as his family became more populated with children, you know, his his family was there. And he and I, once COVID came along, we weren't getting together as much to work together. And so there wasn't that thing that was, keeping me interested in that project. And now so I, went back to the default position of my band, which I've had off and on many years. And that's really working and giving me that camaraderie. And then that's tying in with this thing that I'm doing on Monday nights. And but so I want to kind of tie into that. I want to sort of, you know, move my essay writing into that into that realm where it might touch on politics sometimes, but it might just touch on things that I've learned and things that I've picked up from somebody else. And I'm not going to try to pretend that I know all the answers or anything like that. But I had a mentor when I was in my early 30s who changed my life because he got it. He understood it. And for some reason I didn't feel strange about telling him all my stuff. And the fact that he was at that time 40 years older than I was, I didn't have trouble hearing it from him because I would say, "Yeah, of course I can take advice from him. Of course he knows more than me. He's been around a lot longer, and clearly he's a smart guy in the same way that I was a smart guy. I knew I was smart, and I knew he was smart, and was smart plus 40 years of experience. So I would like to move into that direction. So I got myself a Substack page going, and uh, I sort of want to do it in this way. I sort of want to have the post partisan perspective, and that will be the occasional politically minded um, essay. And then another part of it will be, uh, I'm calling it at this moment Facebook Redux. And these are things that come up in my Facebook memories that are little miniature essays that I wrote. They're like columns, right? That's the stuff that Jason saw over the years that made him think that blue collar logic could be a thing. Some of that touches on politics a little bit, and some of it is just human stuff. So that's going to be one section. And then another section might have to do with more directly with how to live going forward. And I might call that something like third life or something like that. The idea being that the first life that you have is when you're under your parents' uh, care and protection, going through school and all that stuff, up through your 20s when you're sort of just becoming a human being and deciding what you want to do. And then your second life is when you dig into your career for 30 or 35 years, or your work life. And then third life is when that ends and you still want to be, you want to be in some way in the game. So I think I might be writing about that. So that's the Substack thing, and that's going to be a a thing where I will continue to write, and I will put most of my stuff up there as like a newsletter posting, like a column, the stuff that I am writing currently. And there will be the stuff that's being pulled back from other time. And I'll tell you, this was at a time when I was going through this, and here's what I had to say about it. And so I think that there's a lot of value in some of this stuff. If you happen to be one of those people who thinks my mind is interesting in the same way that I think other people's minds are interesting. And so therefore I subscribe to their Substack. So the key thing about why I like Substack is because people who are subscribers, they can get on there and they can have comments, and they can have conversations that YouTube doesn't really work that way. YouTube really doesn't work that way, and maybe at some point we could put together a Discord server or whatever. But I would really like, I love the idea that through the somewhat, through the auspices of this old guy here that you're looking at, you'd have a whole bunch of new friends all over the country, hundreds of people in every state that think kind of like you, don't arrive at every same opinion, but they're careful thinkers, they've got a good sense of humor, they've got a playful side. And this is what I did in 2017 after we had first done our thing just on Facebook, is I'd gotten to know people because they'd been friending me on Facebook, because they'd see this Facebook channel, and one of our videos would come up in their feed, and they'd watch it and they go, "Oh, all right, I'll friend this guy." And they would, and I'd let him in, and I got to be friends with a good number of them. And when I went around the country, I stayed with people. People invited me to come stay in their house, sleep in their guest bedroom. And I would say to them, "Hey, when I come there, show me, your South Carolina, or whatever state it was going to be in. Show me the things you like about your neighborhood. Show me your Adirondack Mountains. And then they would. They'd take me and we'd drive around in their car, and they'd show me all the sites that they thought were the secret stuff and the good stuff. And it enriched my life hugely. So I would love to be able to facilitate, is the word I was looking for earlier, to somehow just facilitate a lot of you meeting each other and getting to know each other. So what I need from you now, I'm going to stop talking. I know I was talking way too long on these things. Let me get another sip here. What I'd like for some of you to do is write to me. And I'll put my email down below. But what I'd really like you to do, I'm gonna sneak you in the back door. I'm gonna put my Bandcamp information down below. And if you would like to reach out to me, just give me a few paragraphs. Just say, "Hey, yeah, you should do, you should do this thing. I encourage you to do it." Whatever you want to say. Don't come there and troll me. If you're still listening at this long in, you I don't know you got a mental illness if you want to come there and troll me and Trump one, whatever it is you need to tell me. You tell somebody else. It's not going to do any good with me. You're not going to change my mind. So and then that'll take you to my Bandcamp page, and all my songs are there. My song lyrics are there for the most part, and you can listen to some of the songs, because the best part of me always ends up in songs. Whatever I'm going through, whatever tortured period of my life I'm going through, times when I'm making all kinds of screw ups and I'm ruining relationships and I don't know what I'm doing. Whatever comes out of that makes me a better person ends up in a song. And so the best part of me is always, you'll see it through the songs. And so It would be nice if you'd go over there, listen to a couple songs, click on that contact Dave, whatever it says there, and that'll open up and you'll email me through that, right? So if there's some number of you saying, "Yes, start making videos or start writing regularly, start putting stuff out there, we're listening," then I'll do it. I need the community, just like I have the people that I go and hang around with, like my buddy John Zipper. He has people over. There's a Sunday song thing over at his house every month, and I go over there and people are showing off the songs they're working on, and it makes me want to write songs because there's a community of songwriters. And if I feel like there's a community of people that are interested in me organizing the lessons I've learned or just whatever into a column, just observances or whatever, whatever it is. If people are saying, yes, we're interested, I will do it. And then I'll be making some kind of contribution. So, and if that's of no interest to you, then I will end up not doing it and it won't kill me. I will have to reassess and go, well, I guess I thought I was more important than I am. But it certainly won't, kill me. I'm fine. I have lots of friends and people who call me and invite me to things. I'm fine. And I live cheap, obviously. And so I wasn't making any money on YouTube anyway. So that's all good. But hopefully there will be some people that will do that. If you see this little thing and you stuck this with me this far, then maybe you found what I was rolling out interesting. Let's see. Tomorrow night, Saturday night, I will be playing with my band at that place I talked about, Cool X Woodshed. Now, the thing about Cool X Woodshed, it's a funky little room. It's a funky little room. It's two storefronts, actually, with the center wall knocked out that are rented by a guy named Paul Kulak for the last 22 or 3 years, I think. I think it's 23 years he's been doing this, and he turned it into a studio. It's got a Pro Tools console in the back and really good microphones, really good cameras, and he's got a whole switching console in the back. And he was doing live streaming back when you needed like a trunk cable to get it done in the early days of the internet. It's like, I think he was, for that cable, he was paying like $175 a month for just the equipment or something like that to the cable company. Nobody knew what they were doing, but Paul has been pioneering it all this time, and his stuff looks really good and it sounds really good. So we're going to be there in that funky, crazy little room. It's interesting to see somebody performing there, because there's all this stuff going on in the background that's been stuck on the walls over the years. And I'll be with my band, and it'll be the last time. I was talking a little bit about losses that I've gone through. I've gone through another loss. Paula Fong, who sings with our band, has to move on. She's got so many obligations in her life right now. She has 3 children, and they're all young, and she's also the music director for her church band. And she's got an opportunity to work with a band who rehearses close to her house, because the other night she came up for a rehearsal, and it took her 2 hours to get there, going across LA. 2 hours. She's got to drive right through downtown LA. So it's just got to be too much for her. And we're going to miss her terribly. But this will be her last gig with us. And so we're sending her off. So I'm not going to try to put it out. I don't think I'm going to try to put it on my channel, because that's just a complication and another thing that can go wrong. All of these things, all the shows that take place there, happen on the Cool X Woodshed Facebook page. So I will put that down below, and that will be the link, and it will be 7:00 Saturday night, the 10th of December. Okay. So if any of you would like to see that going on, it'll be great. It'll be tight, and it won't be like some of the fucked up messes of attempted live streams we've done in the past, where we had people that didn't know what they were doing and we didn't know what we were doing. And it'll be a pretty tight show. We have a young woman named Cordelia Watson, who she'll be playing a half an hour set at the very beginning around 6:30, and then we'll come right on. We will have already fed everybody, and it's going to be great. It's going to be great. So anyway, I'll let you get on with your day, and I hope that I wasn't too boring. I hope maybe this felt a little familiar to you. Dave just running his mouth. So I'm fine. I want to thank again those guys that reached out to me, Eric, Joe, and Bob, and encourage more of you to do that. Okay. And it would be, I think it would just be really good for all of us to not think in terms of, you know, hundreds of thousands of views, all that other stuff, but think in terms of a community of people who get to know one another, where real thoughts and real sincere discussions are happening. I think that'd be good for all of us. So anyway, I'm going to get out of here. All right. Thanks so much for listening in. Did I tell you everything? I think I told you everything. I think I told you everything. Anyway, take care of yourself. Look for the stuff down below in the description, okay?